So hello and yes, welcome back to my end of the month video, guys. Now that's right, today we're going to be talking about all the films that I saw for the first time. They're all first time watches for me throughout the month of December. So we got quite a few here to crack on with. There's a lot to talk about. Some of these I've already spoken about a couple times on the channel already due to my end of 2021 ranking videos and stuff. So a couple of these you'll know my opinions on. A couple of these I've reviewed fully on details, so some I'll go quick with. You guys know the gist by now. So let me scooch over so we can get the movie posters up. Here we are. So the first film I watched in the month of December was The Matrix Reloaded. Yes. Now, The Matrix Reloaded, of course, is the second Matrix film. I'm just checking I've got the titles right here. Sorry, this is very unprofessional of me. Yeah, Matrix Reloaded, the second The Matrix film. So I quite enjoyed the first one. I didn't love it. I said this in my last month's video. I liked it a lot. I gave it an 8 out of 10, I think. But I don't think I'd say I loved it as much as some people. I didn't grow up with it. That's the thing. So, yeah, Matrix Reloaded, the second one. A lot of people don't like this movie. Personally, I actually had quite a good time with it. I thought some of the fight choreography was brilliant. And I loved the fights themselves. I loved that they weren't afraid to let the fights go on for a while. Like, there was some really cool ones on the subway. And there was the one in the... Was it a basketball court or something? But I thought that was awesome. Keanu Reeves was much better in this one. Hugo Weaving was great. There's some weird stuff in this movie, as you guys know. But it was still a decent movie. I'll give this film a 6.5 out of 10. Then we have The Power of the Dog, a film which I've spoken about a few times now here on the channel. You might know already from my 2021 ranking. I like this movie a lot. This stars Mr. Benedict Cumberbatch, Kirsten Dunst, and a whole bunch of other really great actors. And this film here is really interesting because there isn't much of a plot. This film does purely rely on characters. And the characters do drive this film forward really well, I must say. And I have a lot of time and a lot of respect for this movie for that. I didn't find it boring because I thought all the characters were super interesting. They were super well acted as well. The actors done an incredible job. Some of the cinematography was gorgeous in this movie as well. The soundtrack was great. I really don't see why some people have a problem with this, but I've noticed there are quite a few people out there that do. Personally, I loved this film. I thought it was great. I'm already on the verge to rewatch it. It's a fantastic modern western. Cumberbatch should be going up for an Oscar for this film. 8 out of 10. Then, Mr. Movie Worm Jordan, you'll be pleased to hear this. Shout out to my good friend there. Dead Man's Shoes. He's been trying to get me to watch this film for a while. And to be honest, I sort of went into it not having a clue what it was like. So it's a very small, independent British movie that was made in the early to mid-2000s, I believe. You can tell this is a very low-budget movie, but what a fascinating film. Again, it was just so interesting. The horror elements to this, because I did actually get quite creeped out a few times. I think the director done an incredible job there making some scenes which many other directors would find difficult to make tense. He found it really easy to make them tense. And again, the characters in this, they're horrible people, and you kind of are rooting for the villain almost in this one. And it's fascinating where the story ends up as well. I thought this film was actually quite brilliant, Jordan. I'll give it to you. A fair recommendation there, mate. 8.5 out of 10. What a great movie. Then this is a film actually that my colleague at work recommended to me because we were talking about the movie About Time, which we both really love. And he recommended to me The Time Traveller's Wife, which of course also has, both these movies have Rachel McAdams in. And they both involve time travel. So yeah, this was a really fascinating movie. Again, I've got to give props to all the actors. They all did great jobs in this. But this was so fascinating, seeing Kim popping up in different places. And whereas About Time, the main guy in it can pick when he goes back in time. Here, it's random. He can't pick. And I really thought that was a clever aspect to the movie. It made for some really interesting moments in the plot. It's one of those films. I have a hard time talking about this one because terms of, like, cinematography, the score and stuff, there's nothing that blows you away. I think this is just a really charming movie, which I just had a really nice time with. The Time Traveller's Wife, I'm going to give a 7.5 out of 10 to. Okay, then we got A Castle for Christmas. Yeah, this was just like one of those throwaway Netflix movies that my family worked on. I ended up watching some of it with them. Ended up finishing the movie later so I could talk about it on my 2021 video and this video. This film's just boring. I have literally nothing to say about it. The actors aren't doing a particularly good job. The Christmas theme isn't really as present as you'd hope it be for a Christmas movie. It's just so dull, this film. I don't even know how to talk about it, to be honest. It was just nice scenery. That's about it. It didn't particularly do anything too wrong, but it's so painfully average. I'll give it a 4 out of 10. Then we have Godzilla versus Megaguirus. That. So, yeah, I actually managed to get a Godzilla film in December. You know, I'm trying to finish up so I can say I've seen every single Godzilla film. I'm nearly there. I've done about 30 Godzilla films at this point. So, yeah, I'm nearly there. This one was one of the weaker ones, unfortunately. Of the Heisei era? Yeah, of the Heisei era of Godzilla and the Millennium era, you know, the more modern Godzilla films, this might be the weakest one I've seen. Purely because it does what I hate these monster movies doing. It focuses so much on the humans. I want to see the monster. I want to see Godzilla. It really reminded me of the new Godzilla King of the Monsters from 2017. Or 18 it might have been. Can't remember. Well, 19 was it? Nah. It reminded me of that, where it's cool monsters and there's cool fights, but it just cuts to the humans so much. It got on my nerves. But Godzilla looked awesome, and when he was fighting, it was cool, but that's what I want to see throughout this whole movie. I go to a Godzilla film to see Godzilla destroy shit and fight monsters, not here's a human talking to another human, talking about how they're going to do this to find Godzilla, to help Godzilla, and then they're going to talk some more. I don't go to a Godzilla film for that. This film a 5 out of 10. It was very disappointing for a Godzilla film. Then I watched Fun and Fancy Free. Yeah, I'm trying to watch every single Disney animated film now. I think I've only got one left now. But yeah, I'd say there's a few on this list, but I think this current point in time, I think I've only got one left to watch. Fun and Fancy Free is quite an interesting movie, actually, because it really is from that era of Disney which they're trying to forget. You know, it's during the early 40s, when the Second World War, of course, was still going on. Disney were pumping out some films which they're not the best ones to look back on, but they had a formula of splitting the story up, each act of the movie up into 3 separate stories. And Fun and Fancy Free, why it doesn't go into that little bubble of films they're not super proud of, it does follow that similar structure of kind of different stories throughout the movie, but it had a charm to it, and I kind of had a good time with this one. It's fun. It was fun to see Mickey. You know, if you don't like Mickey, here's film a 6 out of 10. You know, this era of Disney animation, it is what it is. You have to take it with, you know, a bit of a pinch of salt, if you will, because, you know, there was a war going on and the world was really struggling. Next up, we have Edge of 17. Yeah, so I watched this because, you know, Hawkeye was on its 2nd or 3rd episode at this point, and it was super popular, and everyone was really into it. I was really into it. And Hailee Steinfeld, I've always been a big fan of hers, more than one ways. So I was like, what other Hailee Steinfeld films are out there that I haven't seen? So I've actually seen most films she's in, surprisingly. And I discovered this one, Edge of 17. And guys, wow. This film had me so gripped. I loved it. The characters in this movie were awesome. Like, she was great. The dilemma she had with her friend and the guy in it was so fantastic. And Woody Harrelson was brilliant in this movie. This is one of the best coming-of-age stories ever. This is, honestly, so good. Hailee Steinfeld was great in this. I really, really loved this movie. Like, I was so... I couldn't take my eyes off the screen, like, because the characters were all so interesting. Not just the main one. They were just all really interesting. There was so much going on. And I was really, really curious to see where things were going to go, how relationships were going to end up. You know, fantastic movie. 9 out of 10. Okay, then I watched this because I was threatened by Netflix. They threatened me that it was leaving Netflix. I was like, okay, I'll watch it. The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. I actually remember seeing trailers for this when this was coming out, starring Lily James. it's not really my type of movie. Again, there was some nice cinematography in this film, actually, you know, with some nice scenery going about. It wasn't really a story that particularly interested me. As I say, it's a bit hard to talk about it. It was alright, it was a fine watch. There were definitely some good characters in it, like side characters. There were some weak ones, some that just didn't really fit in as much. Yeah. 6 out of 10. Then we have the Three Caballeros, which is one of the films that Disney are not super fond of, but I really respect them in a way. Because if you watch them on Disney Plus, it comes up with, instead of a little thing that Disney have written. So instead of taking them away from you, we're here. We're going to keep them on Disney Plus, and acknowledge that these films do not paint certain people, you know, certain ethnicities in the right light, and blah, blah, blah. I can't remember exactly what it says, I'm paraphrasing, but I really respect Disney for doing that. But yeah, you know, this film, it is what it is. It's from a completely different time, a completely different era, not just of filmmaking, but the world in general. Yeah, I sort of feel like Donald Duck should have been arrested after this movie, though. Like, he was drooling after some women in this, and it got a bit much. It got a bit much near the end. There are some fun elements to this movie. It is Disney. It's a kids' movie. There's definitely some fun to be had here. But there are some bits where you do kind of go, yeah. Yeah, that's a bit much, Donald. Calm down. But yeah, you know, that's pretty much all I have to say on this one, to be honest. 5 out of 10? 5 out of 10? Then we got Hang 'em High, which is a Clint Eastwood film which I watched, and I can honestly say I was pretty bored to tears during this one, which was a real shame. You know, I really thought that this would be a good one, but no, you know, Clint Eastwood going back to doing a Western. And I see that it actually has quite a decent rating on Letterboxd and stuff, and I was very surprised. I was just really bored throughout this one. It had a good score, and, you know, Clint was good as always, but other than that, I just really didn't think there was much going on in this movie, to be honest. Yeah, I give it a 5.5, 5.5 out of 10. Then we have Annie, 1982, the original, that's right. Now, I know that there's a new one, a remake, with Jamie Foxx and Cameron Diaz, which I'm probably not going to watch. But I wanted to watch the original because I'm really into my musicals. And yeah, you know, I thought it was really good. There was some songs which I'd heard before, didn't know from Annie, so that was fun. I thought the acting was pretty good all around. Like, I thought the kid actor who played Annie done a great job. I thought, like, the side casts were really good. And the choreography was fantastic, especially in the opening song, It's a Hard Knock Life. I thought that was really good, some of the choreography there. And it was just, it was a pleasant time. 7.5 out of 10. Then we have the Black Cauldron. That's right, I'd actually never seen the Black Cauldron, Disney animated film. And I'm not really sure why Disney they're not really super fond of this one either. Like, of the Blu-ray slips they've put out that I've collected, it's one of the few they didn't put out. And I don't know if it's maybe because the film's quite dark compared to other Disney films. I don't know. Because obviously, this one came out in the 60s, late 60s? Yeah, it must have been, or early 70s. So, you know, it's from a much later period and stuff. So I'm really not sure what Disney have against this film. But I had quite a good time with it. I liked that it was really dark. It was surprising from a Disney animation movie. I actually really liked the voice acting in this one. And some of the character designs, especially the villain, I thought was awesome. Although I gotta say, did Andy Serkis or, you know, Peter Jackson or whoever get the idea of Gollum sounding the way he did from the character in this? Because he sounds suspiciously like Gollum. I don't know. But the Black Cauldron I thought was really good, actually. 7.5 out of 10. Okay, okay, so then I watched Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the new one. The poster actually really intrigued me when it pops up on Netflix. I was like, that looks like some cool animation. I watched it and it is a pretty generic movie. The animation actually isn't that incredible. It looks alright. It's a bit different for Disney, I guess, but yeah, it is what it is. The voice actor wasn't great, and the characters I found really annoying. I give this film a 5 out of 10. Okay, this is the film I was about to start talking about before Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I made a big mistake. I was looking for Jim Carrey's other really, really highly acclaimed film because I'd seen The Truman Show. The film I was trying to think of in my head was Eternal Sunshine, but I got it wrong. I ended up clicking on this one because I wasn't quite thinking in my head. I saw Ace Ventura and I thought that's a very popular film with Jim Carrey. I haven't seen it. Let's watch that. So I watched the first one, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. Now, I believe there are some fans of this, and I think they're probably people that grew up with it. It's a bit like me with Anchorman. I was brought up on that, so I've always been very fond of that. Even though I can acknowledge it's probably not a very good movie. I thought Ace Ventura, Pet Detective was fucking awful. Like, absolutely terrible. I didn't laugh once. I love Jim Carrey as an actor, but he was so over the top here. The directors gave him too much free range here, and he was way too much. The side characters sucked. Everything about this movie was terrible. I hated it. 2 out of 10. Wow. Sorry if you liked it. I didn't. I watched Klaus. A Netflix animated movie. It came out in 2019, I think. And I remember people really raving about this, and for some reason I just didn't watch it. I think I was just busy when this film dropped, and I'd sort of forgot about it over time. But it popped up on my recommended on Netflix, and I thought, you know what, this is the day. I'm gonna check it out. Why didn't I watch it in 2019? Wow, this film. First off, if you got kids, I know we're out of December now. When it comes to 2022 Christmas, make them watch this. This is a great, great Christmas film. The animation, for a start, is brilliant. It's gorgeous. And the characters and the story, it's just all so intelligent, and it all flows so well. Because at the start, I'm like, how's this a Christmas movie? It's about a guy delivering letters and post, whatever. And it slowly progresses, and you can see the story sort of going in a direction. And I just remember sitting there thinking, this is quite clever. I can see where they're going, and this is really, really well done. The construction of this plot, I thought, was brilliant. The voice acting, J.K. Simmons, so good in this. Yeah, Klaus was fantastic. 8 out of 10. Then we have Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, starring Mr. Johnny Depp. This is a weird movie. They're on drugs the entire time, and I felt like I was on drugs watching it. It is a very bizarre film. Yeah, it was alright. There was some really nice shots in it, to be fair. The cinematography was good. I really liked the lighting in the movie. And when they were on their spaced out trips, I thought they'd done some really good stuff in the editing room to make you feel like you were on that trip with them. The music in it was pretty good. The acting was fantastic, although you do wonder if some of them were maybe actually on drugs. But yeah, no, I thought it was a good movie. It was good. Yeah, I'll give it a 7. Give it a 7. Why not? And we have The Unforgivable, the new Sandra Bullock film, which hit, I think that was Netflix as well, wasn't it? Yeah, again, some people who really enjoyed this. I just remember being incredibly bored. I thought it was actually quite predictable, and I just didn't find the ending that satisfying. Yeah, I really just don't have much to say about this one either, to be honest. It's just one of those that I watched, and I was like, yeah, okay, there's another one to put on the 2021 list, I guess. That's I've literally got nothing else for it. I didn't even think Sandra Bullock was that good in it, so... Yeah, The Unforgivable. Yeah, 5 out of 10. And we have The Adventures of Archiebald and Mr. Toad, which was really weird because I thought that they were, like, together. And it's 2 separate stories again for Disney. You know, it's from that sort of period of time, Fun and Fancy Free. I thought the Mr. Toad story was pretty good, but I thought the Archiebald one was a bit meh. Yeah, but, you know, there was some fun moments to it, some familiar characters popping up. I really like kind of the real-world stuff that they tapped into as well with this movie. So, yeah, again, it's so weird talking about these movies, because this whole little 5-6 film era from Disney feels like filler. So, when I'm watching all of these, it almost feels like I'm just going to end up saying the same thing about all of them, because they feel very similar. There are some story arcs in these movies I like and some that I don't, but they all kind of feel like filler movies. Yeah, The Adventures of Archibald Mr. Toad. Can have a 5.5. Then I watched King Richard, which, as you know, I've talked about it a lot over last week, so it made my top 10 films of the year. It's bloody brilliant. I love tennis. I really do enjoy watching Wimbledon, so I watched both Serena and Venus Williams play a lot. So I was really interested to see this biopic of their dad and their upbringing, and it was fantastic. If Will Smith and John Bartfield don't get Oscars for this, there's something wrong. They were both incredible. I thought the cinematography was brilliant. I thought the sound mixing was fantastic. Maybe the score could have been a bit better, I guess. Maybe that's the only complaint. But 9 out of 10 for this film. Fantastic. Then we got Lamb, an A24 film, which was very weird movie. The concept of it is strange, but if you watch the film in its entirety and you don't tune off halfway through because it is very strange, I think there is a very poetic feeling towards this film, how the plot comes full circle. I have to say the cinematography was gorgeous. The actual effects as well on the lamb boy, I thought was really good. And the dialogue was fantastic. I thought it was really interesting. So, overall, I did actually quite enjoy Lamb. I give it a 7.5. It starts out weird and it doesn't give the audience much time to fit into the movie, but once you get there, it's a very good film. And we got West Side Story 2021. Again, another film I've spoken about a lot here on the channel because of the 2021 end of the year videos. I actually prefer it to the original. I love the look of this movie. It literally looks like they've gone back to the 60s modern day cameras and filmed it. So the sets and the costumes and the cinematography, all out of this world incredible. The music is great. The acting is fantastic. The only complaints I really have with this movie are to do with characters, but that's how the original film handled them. So I don't know if I even blame this film much. West Side Story 2021 could have an 8.5 out of 10. Then I finally watched Little Women. It went onto Netflix and I was so excited. I made it an absolute priority to watch this film and I loved it. But I've got to say, Florence Pugh absolutely stole the show. She was so good in this movie. It's the best movie I've seen from her now. Incredible performance. So good. But that's not to take away from the other actresses because they all did a great job as well. Emma Watson, it's nice to see her. She doesn't pop up in much anymore, so it's great there. And again, I think I was just really interested in seeing where this story was going because there was a lot of different directions it could have gone in. And it was nice that they kept all four of the main, sisters really interesting and they didn't prioritise ones over the other. I think they all got a nice amount of screen time, all got interesting stories, all got good development. And yeah, there was a lot of good side characters in here as well. Timothy Chalamet was great in this as well. So yeah, really good. 8.5 out of 10. And then we have Melody Time, another Disney film. Yeah, just sort of same old. There were a couple stories in this I liked, and there was a couple I didn't. I honestly can't even remember. They're a bit of a blur in my head. I don't know how I'm going to do the Disney ranking, because all of these films sort of just... I can't remember what stories come from each one, so I'm just going to slap down the middle and give this film a 5. Oh, Spiderman No Way Home. Okay, I've reviewed this in detail. I've talked about it so much over the last month. This will probably be the last time I get to talk about it. In a way, I'm kind of glad because I feel like I'm all Spider-Man'd out. But this film's fantastic. It had so many things to do and it nailed it all without letting the film be messy. There were some surprises which were awesome. And surprisingly, some nice cinematography. The score was surprisingly good. If you go to... Make sure you see this film in IMAX. Go hear the score because there is actually... It's really good. The acting all round in this movie is fantastic. Spider-Man No Way Home is a Spider-Man fan's dream. This is the comic book character coming to life like the best he ever has been allowed to be. As a modern day Spider-Man comic reader, this film is brilliant. 9 out of 10. Then I watched Ron's Gone Wrong, which went to Disney+, an animated film I missed at the cinema. I wouldn't mind seeing it. Unfortunately, missed it. So happy to see it go to Disney+. And yeah, I mean, this film borrows plot points from other films like Big Hero 6, but I've seen other like Netflix films like Next Gen do that as well. So, you know, it's kind of hard when as many movies exist as they do. But it's a fun little cute film, you know. If you got kids, I'd really recommend it. The character design of the bots and stuff is awesome, really cute. The animation styles, it's, you know, it's interesting, it's all right. But the characters are just fun. Some good voice acting as well along the way. All round, it's you know, it's a very nice film. I haven't got loads to say about it. I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. Okay, what we got left? We've got 5 movies left. We got It's Our Wonderful Life. That's right, I'd never watched It's a Wonderful Life, so finally got to watch that this Christmas for the first time. And now I think I can honestly say I'll be watching it every Christmas alongside Home Alone and Love Actually. It's up there in that category of incredible Christmas films. James Stewart has become one of my favourite actors over the last year after watching him in a lot of Hitchcock movies and now this. The plot itself, I wondered what it was really going for in the first couple acts. I was like, oh, this is good. I'm enjoying it, but I'm not loving it like a lot of other people. And in the final, it's one of the best final acts I think I've ever seen, to be honest. I love the final act of this movie. It was just so interesting, so well acted out. And it really made me enjoy the first 2 acts more because of how well the final act stood. And I think on rewatch, I'm going to love this film even more. I thought this film was absolutely fantastic. The score, the music was beautiful. It's a Wonderful Life was a fantastic movie. 9 out of 10. Then we got The Matrix Revolutions, which I had to quickly rush in because I was going to see Resurrections like the day after this, and I thought this film was an absolute sloppy mess. People who moan about Marvel having big CGI battles at the end, I don't really get that for a start because you are watching a comic book movie, so there's going to be a lot of CGI probably because, you know, they're superheroes. This whole film felt like the final act of a Marvel film, and it gave me a headache. Like, one act is fine, and it makes sense in a Marvel film because it's the climax. This film gave me a headache. It went on for so long, so long. There were characters I really didn't care about. They were jumping from one set of characters to another set, and I'd forget about some characters, and then we'd have to go back to them. This film was just a mess for me. A giant pile of steaming, messy crap. I mean, I didn't hate it. I didn't. I've seen plenty of worse films, but yeah, I just had a headache with this movie, and I really was quite happy when it was over. So, 4 out of 10. Then we have Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which I have to thank my very good friend Alex Pitt for sending me. So I did finally get to watch that other Jim Carrey film. And yeah, I loved it. He was so good in this movie, as was Kate Winslet. Kate Winslet was also great in this movie. Their chemistry was really, really, really good. And it was interesting just seeing Jim Carrey do this really low-budget film like this. And yeah, again, the plot with this one, I was just really, really curious to see where it went. And it was really heartwarming and stuff at times. I found it fascinating, this movie. Give it an 8 out of 10. I will say, I still prefer the Truman Show a little bit. Then we got The Matrix Resurrections, the new Matrix film. I preferred it to the third one, just because it didn't give me a headache. But yeah, the film was pretty choppy, pretty messy. It was fully aware of what it was, and it took the piss out of itself, but then it tried to be really serious, and it really confused me. Keanu Reeves was okay in this movie. Yeah, the new villains were kind of meh. It's kind of how I feel about the whole film. It's just very meh. The visuals were pretty good, I guess. A couple rocky bits of CGI. Yeah, I really don't have much to say about it, to be honest. 5 out of 10. And the final film I have to talk about is Don't Look Up, the new Leonardo DiCaprio film, which some people might have been lucky enough to see in cinema. I wasn't. I had to wait for it to come to Netflix. But nevertheless, good to see it when it comes to Netflix. And I'm going to say, I had a really good time with this. Runtime definitely could have been chopped down about 20 minutes, I reckon, or so. I think it definitely dragged out a little bit in a couple of places, but the humour was great. I laughed out loud many times, mainly at Jonah Hill. I thought he was hilarious. Jennifer Lawrence surprisingly made me laugh. This might be her second best performance after Silver Linings, off the top of my head. But it was just so funny. Meryl Streep was great. The guy with like the white teeth, I forget the actor's name. He was hilarious. Leo was of course incredible. He's always incredible. And the film itself is just fascinating. And the sad thing is that if something like this was to happen in the real world, that's probably how it play out, because we've got idiots running our planet. So yeah, Don't Look Up, I did have a really good time with. I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. But there we go, but we got to pick a film of the month. Got to pick a film of the month. And, I've chucked my list away. So I've got to now do this off the top of my head. But I do have one in mind. I'm going to quickly grab my list back, actually, because I want to double check. I don't want to be... I want to make sure that I've give this prestigious award out to the right movie. Because I am thinking of one in my head. But I also kind of want to give it to this movie. So I want to give Edge of 17 a shout out. I'm not going to give it to that. But I really do. That is a very close second. And Spiderman No Way Home and It's a Wonderful Life, I also want to give shout outs to. They also really deserve it. But I'm going to go with King Richard as my film of the month. I really, really loved this movie. From start to finish, I was gripped by the story. And the performances were like none other this year. Or last year. So yeah, I'm going to go with King Richard, actually. But anyway, there we go. There's my end of the month video, December. I hope you guys enjoyed as always. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like the video, leave a message. And as always, I'll see you next time for another video. Bye-bye.